All right, guys, I am so triggered about this topic. Okay, so this is for the idiots who would rather perpetuate lies, just like the moron in the comments of the last video I did. You'd rather perpetuate lies rather than reading what the SAVE Act is actually all about.
Developing this morning on Capitol Hill, lawmakers a step closer to securing federal elections. Last night, the House did officially pass the Save America Act, which would require proof of citizenship to register and a photo ID to vote.
Ensuring the integrity of elections is an essential issue. It's essential to maintaining our constitutional republic, and everybody in this country seems to understand and agree to that. This is about a 90-10 issue in the polling, because all that we've done tonight in this simple piece of legislation is apply common sense.
And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The only reason that people are even against this is because they want to cheat. That's right. They want illegals to be able to vote. And why? It's because the Democrats are losing their voter base. That's it. Truth is, the majority of Americans actually want this bill passed.
What are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%. 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote. But even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj.
And you know what? I'm tired of all this BS about this being Jim Crow 2.0. That's an insult to black people like me, a total insult to foundational black Americans. We have more sense than that. We have a brain, and we know how to pull out an ID and present it to be able to go and vote.
The SAVE Act, that's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data.
Are you saying that black voters
the SAVE
are
Act
too dumb to know
just,
what's good for them? I mean,
it sounds pretty,
it sounds pretty condescending to me.
You get
three-quarters of black voters
That's not
who want voter ID.
Okay, so in this video, we're going to break down the entire SAVE Act and dispel all of the nonsense and tell you the truth. That's for all of the people riding the short bus who are all triggered and angry and scared that it's going to disenfranchise black people and women. We're going to go through this step by step. And then you can post your comments at the end if you think that you have a valid argument or if you're still standing on the BS and the nonsense.
This piece of legislation is simple common sense. There's a reason that it is polling at astronomical levels, no matter which party you're in, no matter what race or background you have, whether you're urban or rural, whether you're black or white, Hispanic, whether you're male or female, it's polling at 80, 85, 90% across the country.
All right, so let's get this party started and run it through from the top to the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna start with just right here at the beginning, what the SAVE Act actually requires. And then we're going to run through, we're going to talk about the rumors, the BS about people being disenfranchised.
Americans don't have a passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women, a majority of women who change their names for marriage have to provide additional proof that they've changed their legal names in order to register to vote.
I have heard Democrats
Scott, why
make these
don't you
same
actually
arguments.
respond to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and
as
the substance
opposed
is
to
this.
making this about something that it's not.
You're saying,
it's not just about voter ID.
married
It's
women,
also about
black
who has
voters,
access
and rural people
to...
are too stupid to figure out how to register to vote.
And then I'm going to explain to you why this is all a bunch of worrywarts out there who don't have a valid argument, because the states are going to handle all of these stupid little issues that people are bringing up. All right, so what does the SAVE Act actually require. So according to multiple sources, not just me reading the bill, number one, proof of citizenship is required when you're registering to vote. It's as simple as that. So the acceptable documents, there are several. It includes things like a U.S. passport, a birth certificate, other documentary proof of citizenship, or a photo ID, okay? Driver's license, state ID. How many people do you know that have a driver's license or a state ID? Okay, so here's the thing. You've got proof of citizenship, you have photo IDs. Those are two separate things. But the states are the ones who must verify the citizen's status. And that's where all the nonsense comes in. So the states are the ones that have to check the voter rolls with the DHS. Okay, so what about married women whose IDs don't match their birth certificates? That's what they're all claiming. All right. So this is where the viral videos come from, trying to scare everybody up. But the reporting does not support the idea that millions of people are going to be blocked from voting. Okay. So here's the thing. The bill allows the states to accept additional documents for name mismatches. So when you got a driver's license and has a different last name from a birth certificate, the states will handle that. All right. So here's a key fact. The SAVE Act instructs the states to establish a process for people whose legal name does not match their birth certificate to provide additional documents. And guess what, guys? Affidavits are allowed. So what the heck is an affidavit? It's just a signed, sworn statement saying, yeah, I am who I say I am. My last name is changed. I'm going to sign this affidavit, and that's enough proof. So the SAVE Act does allow affidavits for name mismatches, but it does not list marriage or name change certificates as being the only proof. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that women can still register even if their ID does not match their birth certificate name, and that states must create a process to handle that situation. The bill does not require a birth certificate if another acceptable proof of citizenship is provided by the person who wants to vote. So then why all the concern? Why all the fuss? Well, it's because the bill is vague about which documents the states can or must accept. It's vague about whether marriage certificates count, and it's vague about how burdensome the process might be. So the voter rights groups are arguing that this ambiguity could create confusion or inconsistent enforcement, but not mass disenfranchisement. Now, funny thing is, you got all these folks hollering about, we don't want to federalize elections, it's up to the states. But here the bill allows for that. And they're telling the states, handle your business. All right, so let's dig deeper into this whole idea that the SAVE Act will disenfranchise 69 million women. Well, guess what? There is no evidence supporting that number. And the claim appears to be based on the total number of U.S. women who changed their last name after marriage. That's it. And it's assuming that all of them would be unable to vote as a result. It's assuming that states would refuse to accept marriage certificates or the affidavits that I mentioned. It assumes that there's no alternative documentation available. You just don't get to vote. Don't pass go. You're done. But the bill specifically states that you are to allow affidavits, allow multiple forms of citizenship proof, and it requires the states to create a process for the mismatched names. So the whole 69 million women disenfranchised, that whole claim is not grounded in the bill's text or in the credible reporting about the bill. Okay, so how about the next rumor? Does the SAVE Act force women to dig up birth certificates to vote? Because, like, who's got a birth certificate? Most women, they just would probably lose their birth certificate, and there's no way they'd be able to find it. Well, actually, no. The bill does not force women to dig up a birth certificate. Why? It's because a birth certificate is only one of the acceptable ways that you can prove your citizenship. Okay? So a passport also works. You got multiple other citizenship documents that'll work. The affidavit can be used for the name mismatches. And like I said before, the states have to create the process for the mismatched names. Nothing in the bill says that women must produce a birth certificate if their ID shows that their name has changed when they got married. All right, so women with married names cannot vote. That is a lie. Now, why is there so much confusion about that? Well, it's because the bill is strict about citizenship proof, which it should be. Why? It's because a certain party is allowing illegals to vote. And that's not even arguable. There's tons of proof. If you want to go look it up, do your own homework, do your research, as Tiffany Henyard said, and you'll find that to be true. Now, the bill is vague about which documents states must accept for name changes, but we are leaving it up to the states and not forcing the hand from the federal government. So the advocacy groups are warning about the potential bureaucratic hurdles, and the opponents are using the worst case scenarios to interpret the bill to argue against it. Just the worst case, of course, but the text and the reporting don't support the idea of a mass disenfranchisement. And, furthermore, what does this have to do with Jim Crow 2.0? If I remember right, the Jim Crow laws affected black people. Now, if you're complaining about disenfranchising all women, how does that equate to Jim Crow 2.0, even though we know that it's a bunch of BS? How does that zone in on just the black community? Well, as you saw what Abby was stating in that little argument on CNN, they're assuming that black people are not smart enough to fight their way out of a paper bag, while other cultures, white people, Native Americans, Asian people, well, they'll be okay because they're smart enough to figure things out. That is so offensive. I just cannot believe that people would sit up and make that argument and not realize that you are insulting every black person in the United States. So for whatever reason, we've got this 24% of black people that want to cling to this whole Jim Crow 2.0 thing, while 70% of us black people don't have a problem with it. Why? Because we don't want illegals to vote in the election, which would dilute the power of our voting base. Now, do you have an argument left? Are there any other idiots out there who want to throw insults at me? You ought to go look what the person said in the comments. I mean, big deal. I get insulted all the time. But go look at the insults, the insult that was levied against me, as if I'm not one of, say, probably a good 20 million other black people who don't have a problem with the SAVE Act. But you want to act like I have lost my mind and I'm being disingenuous. Yeah, right. So post in the comments if you think you have a valid argument left. I'd like to hear about it. Let me know why this is Jim Crow 2.0 and tell me exactly how this is going to zone in on just the black community and disenfranchise us and take away our ability to vote. Go ahead. I'll wait. Start typing.